The meeting room fell silent as Peter Collins walked to the front. The CEO of Exo Resource Ventures was known for his dramatic announcements, but today he seemed especially pleased with himself. On the large screen behind him, a slowly rotating image of asteroid NT-4997 appeared. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're looking at is not just a rock in space. It's the future of our company and possibly humanity's resource crisis, Peter said, his voice steady with confidence. Allison Wright shifted in her seat, already running calculations in her mind. As the lead mining engineer on previous space missions, she knew better than anyone the challenges of extracting resources from asteroids. This one looked particularly difficult due to its current orbit. Our scans show unprecedented concentrations of platinum, iridium, and rare earth metals, Peter continued. Conservative estimates value this asteroid at over $8 trillion. A low whistle came from Jack Martinez, the team's geologist who sat next to Allison. He leaned over and whispered, "That's if we can actually reach it. Its orbit is nowhere near Earth's." Allison nodded slightly. That was the obvious problem everyone in the room was thinking about. Peter smiled as if reading their thoughts. "I know what you're thinking. NT-4997 is currently in an orbit that makes traditional mining impossible." He paused for effect. "That's why we're not going to mine it there. We're going to move it." Murmurs filled the room. Allison felt her heartbeat quicken. "The gravity tug technology we've been developing for the past 6 years is ready for its first major application," Peter announced. "We will attach our new mining vessel, the Helios Dawn, to NT-4997 and gradually alter its trajectory, bringing it into Earth's orbit where we can mine it properly." Maya Patel, the company's safety officer, raised her hand immediately. "Sir, moving an asteroid of that size has never been attempted. The risk assessment has been completed and approved," Peter cut in smoothly. "Yes, there are risks, but our simulations show a 97% success rate. The remaining 3% accounts for equipment failure, not trajectory miscalculations." Allison knew that wasn't entirely true. She had seen the preliminary reports. Moving something that massive had too many variables to predict with such certainty. Eric Daniels, the project manager, stood up from the front row. "We've already secured preliminary approval from the International Space Commission. They're impressed with our safety protocols." Of course they were, Allison thought. Eric had a way of presenting data that emphasized benefits while burying potential problems in technical jargon. "We launch in 3 months," Peter announced. Allison Wright will serve as chief engineer, Jack Martinez as lead geologist, Maya Patel as safety officer, and Eric Daniels as project manager. The rest of the team will be finalized within the week. After the meeting, Allison found herself staring at the detailed scans of NT-4997 in her office. The asteroid's composition was indeed remarkable. If they could bring it back safely, it would revolutionize the industry. Having second thoughts, Jack appeared at her door, his usual enthusiasm slightly tempered. "Just being realistic," she replied. "No one has ever moved something this big before." Jack dropped into the chair across from her desk. "That's what makes it exciting. Think about it, Allison. We'll be the first humans to essentially lasso an asteroid and bring it home. The scientific papers alone will make us legends. If we don't accidentally knock it into Earth and kill everyone," she said dryly. "Always the optimist." Jack laughed. "The math checks out. The gravity tug will work." Allison turned back to the scans. Something about the asteroid's core readings seemed unusual, but she couldn't quite identify what was bothering her. 3 months to prepare for the mission of a lifetime," Jack said, getting up. "I'm going to celebrate. You should too." After he left, Allison continued studying the scans. She would need to understand every inch of that rock before they tried to move it. Something told her that NT-4997 might not be as straightforward as everyone thought. But with proper planning and caution, they could do this safely. And if they succeeded, They would change humanity's approach to resource extraction forever. 3 months passed quickly. Now Allison stood at the observation window of the Helios Dawn, watching as the massive asteroid NT-4997 grew larger against the blackness of space. The ship had been traveling for 2 weeks to reach the asteroid's position. "It's bigger than I expected," said Jack, joining her at the window. His eyes were wide with excitement. "Almost 4 kilometers across at its widest point," Allison confirmed. "The largest object anyone has ever tried to move. History in the making." Jack grinned, tapping his tablet to record some notes. "The preliminary scans are already coming in. The mineral content is even richer than we thought." The 12-person crew had settled into a rhythm during their journey. Most were veterans of space missions, though none had attempted anything this ambitious before. The Helios Dawn was the most advanced mining vessel ever built, equipped with the experimental gravity tug system designed to slowly alter the asteroid's trajectory. Eric called everyone to the command center for the final briefing before attachment. "We'll establish contact in approximately 6 hours," he announced, pointing to the digital display showing their approach. "Maya will lead the safety checks before we activate the gravity tug. Allison, your team will monitor the initial pull to ensure we don't exceed stress tolerances." Maya frowned at her own screen. "I'm detecting some unusual density variations in the core. It doesn't match our Earth-based scans." "Space rocks are never uniform," Eric dismissed. "That's why we're here in person, to adapt as needed." "Still," Maya insisted, "I think we should do a more detailed scan before attachment." "That would delay us by at least 12 hours, Eric countered. "Headquarters is expecting us to stick to the timeline." Allison studied the readings. "Maya's right. These variations could affect how the asteroid responds to the gravity tug." Eric sighed. "Fine. 4 hours for additional scans, then we proceed." Jack took charge of the extended scans, directing the ship's sensors to focus on the asteroid's core. When the results came in, he called Allison to his workstation. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a section of the scan. "These crystal formations throughout the core. I've never seen anything like them." Allison zoomed in on the image. "They almost look organized." "Exactly. Natural crystals don't form in these patterns." "What are you suggesting?" Allison asked, though she already suspected what he was thinking. Jack lowered his voice. "I'm not saying aliens, but this doesn't look natural." Sam Rodriguez, the communications officer, interrupted them. "We're experiencing some interference with our Earth transmissions. Started about an hour ago and getting worse." "Source?" Allison asked. Sam shrugged. "Can't pinpoint it exactly, but it seems to be coming from the direction of the asteroid." Despite the concerns, Eric decided they would proceed with attachment. The gravity tug system deployed smoothly, extending massive electromagnetic coils that would generate a gentle but persistent pull on the asteroid, gradually altering its trajectory without touching its surface. "Gravity tug is online," Allison reported. "Initial pull at 2% capacity. Asteroid responding as expected," Jack added. "No signs of structural stress." The first 2 days went perfectly. The asteroid began its incredibly slow change of course, exactly as the simulations had predicted. The crew settled into shifts, constantly monitoring the process. On the 3rd night, Allison was awakened by an alert from the ship's computer. "Anomaly detected in gravitational readings," the automated voice announced. She rushed to the command center, finding Maya already there. "The pull is increasing on its own," Maya said, pointing to the readouts. "We set it at 8%, but it's now at 13% and climbing." "That's impossible," Allison muttered, checking the systems. "The gravity tug doesn't have automatic adjustment capabilities." Jack joined them, his hair messy from sleep. "The crystal structures in the core, they're changing formation. Look." On the screen, the strange crystalline patterns were indeed shifting, almost like they were responding to the gravity tug's pull. "This isn't just a rock," Allison whispered. Something else is happening here. As if in response to her words, the communication system crackled with static, and the lights on the bridge flickered ominously. Eric called an emergency meeting as soon as the gravity tug stabilized at 15% power. The crew gathered in the command center, faces tense with concern. "I've never seen anything like this," Allison said, displaying the readings on the main screen. "The gravity tug is functioning normally, but something is amplifying its effect." "It's those crystal formations," Jack insisted. "They're reacting to our technology somehow." Eric paced the room. "Let's not jump to conclusions. We need to focus on regaining control." "Control isn't the only problem," Sam added, working at the communication station. "Our signal to Earth is getting weaker. At this rate, we'll lose contact completely within 48 hours. Maya looked up from her safety protocols. "We should disengage immediately. This mission is becoming too unpredictable." "Disengage?" Eric stopped pacing. "Do you realize what you're suggesting? This asteroid is worth trillions. We can't just abandon it because of some unexpected readings." "I agree with Maya," Allison said. "At least temporarily. We can back off, reassess, and then re-engage once we understand what's happening." Eric shook his head. "Headquarters won't approve." "Headquarters can't even hear us clearly," Sam interrupted. "And we might be the ones in danger, not them." After heated debate, Eric reluctantly agreed to a compromise. They would continue moving the asteroid but prepare for emergency disengagement if needed. Jack would lead a team to drill into the asteroid's surface to collect samples of the crystal formations. 2 days later, Jack, Allison, and crew member Luis Ortiz suited up for the mission to the asteroid's surface. They rode the small shuttle from the Helios Dawn to NT 4997, landing near a flat area Jack had identified. "This is incredible," Jack said as they stepped onto the surface. His voice came through the comm system in their helmets. "We're the first humans to stand on this asteroid." "Let's hope we're not the last," Allison replied, setting up the portable drilling equipment. "The sooner we understand these crystals, the better." Lewis monitored their oxygen and radiation levels while Jack directed the drilling. After 20 minutes, they reached their first crystal cluster. "Beautiful," Jack whispered, as the drill camera showed clear, blue-tinted crystals that seemed to pulse with inner light. "They almost look like they're alive." As Jack extracted the first sample, the asteroid trembled beneath them. "What was that?" Lewis asked, steadying himself. "Some kind of seismic activity," Allison replied, checking her instruments. "But that should be impossible on a body this small." The trembling grew stronger. Allison's datapad lit up with alerts from the Helios Dawn. "We need to get back to the ship now," she ordered. "Something's happening throughout the asteroid." They hurried back to their shuttle, the ground shaking more violently with each passing minute. As they lifted off, Allison saw something through the viewport that made her blood run cold. The crystal formations were breaking through the asteroid's surface in multiple places, growing visibly larger. Back on the Helios Dawn, they found the crew in chaos. Maya was trying to disengage the gravity tug, but the system wasn't responding. "The power output has reversed," she explained frantically. "Instead of us pulling the asteroid, something in the asteroid is pulling us." Sam pointed to his communication screens. "That interference I detected. It's not random. Look at these patterns. They repeat every 7.3 seconds exactly." Allison studied the pattern. "That's not natural interference." "Are you saying it's a signal?" Eric asked, his earlier confidence replaced by growing fear. Jack placed the crystal sample in a containment unit for analysis. "I think this asteroid isn't just a rock. It's something constructed, or at least modified." "By what?" Lewis asked the question no one wanted to voice. "Not by whom," Sam corrected quietly. "By what?" The ship's emergency alarms suddenly blared to life. On the main view screen, they watched in horror as more crystal structures erupted across the asteroid's surface, some reaching toward the Helios Dawn like grasping fingers. "Get us out of here," Eric shouted at the pilot. I can't, she yelled back. The engines are at full power, but we're not moving. Whatever this thing is, it has us trapped. Allison felt a chill run down her spine as a new message appeared on her console from Earth Command. Mission aborted. DICNJGIMNEDIATELY. Repeat. DICNJGIMNEDIATELY. But they all knew it was already too late for that. The next 12 hours aboard the Helios Dawn were frantic. Every attempt to disengage from the asteroid failed. The gravity tug systems remained online but completely unresponsive to commands. The crystals are spreading through our connection point, Allison reported, showing the crew images from the external cameras. Blue-white crystalline growths were forming along the electromagnetic coils of the gravity tug, creating a bridge between the asteroid and their ship. It's like they're feeding on our energy, Jack said, studying the sample they had collected. The crystals in this container have grown 17% since we brought them aboard, and we're not even giving them any power source. Eric paced the command center, his earlier arrogance replaced by grim determination. We need options, people. Real options. Maya checked her tablet. Ship systems are reporting increased power drain. Whatever these crystals are doing, they're siphoning our energy. At this rate, life support will be compromised in less than 5 days. And we're moving, Sam added from the navigation station. But not toward Earth. Our course has changed completely. On the main screen, the projected path showed them moving away from Earth's orbit, heading deeper into the solar system. Where is it taking us? Louise asked. Sam shook his head. If this trajectory holds, somewhere beyond Mars. A heavy silence fell over the room. They were trapped on a ship being dragged by an asteroid that seemed to have a mind of its own, heading away from any possible rescue. We need to cut the physical connection, Allison finally said. The crystals have created a bridge we didn't anticipate, but if we can break it, we might free ourselves. How do we do that? Eric asked. The normal disconnection procedures aren't working. Manually, Maya said. Someone needs to go outside and physically separate us from those crystal growths. The crew exchanged nervous glances. An EVA mission near the increasingly active crystal formations would be extremely dangerous. I'll go, Maya volunteered. I've had the most EVA experience. Not alone, Allison insisted. I need to be there to identify which connections can be safely cut without damaging our systems. Eric nodded reluctantly. Take Louis as well. The rest of us will monitor from here and be ready for immediate engine restart if you succeed. As Maya, Allison and Louis prepared for their EVA, Jack continued analyzing the crystal sample. Sam, look at this, he called. The communications officer joined him at the lab station. Jack pointed to his screen. The interference pattern in our communications matches the growth pattern of these crystals. It's not just similar, it's identical. Sam leaned closer. So the crystals are causing the interference. I think they're communicating, Jack said quietly, or at least trying to. Outside the ship, Maya led the way along the hull toward the gravity tug apparatus. The 3 astronauts moved carefully, tethered to the ship and to each other. My God, Louis breathed as they reached the connection point. The crystal growth was far more extensive than the cameras had shown. Beautiful but terrifying blue-white structures had completely enveloped the gravity tug's main components and were spreading across the hull. We need to cut here and here, Allison said, indicating points where the ship's systems could be safely disconnected. Maya unfolded a laser cutting tool and began working on the first connection point. As the laser touched the crystal, it pulsed brightly. The entire structure began to glow. Something's happening, Louis warned. Before they could react, a surge of energy raced from the crystals through their suits. All 3 astronauts cried out in pain. Get back to the ship, Maya shouted, pushing Allison away from the crystal growth. A second, larger pulse erupted from the crystals. Maya, who was closest, took the brunt of the energy surge. Her suit's systems flickered and went dark. Maya. Allison screamed, grabbing for her tether. Louis helped Allison pull Maya's limp form away from the crystals and back toward the airlock. As they retreated, the crystal growth pulsed once more, then began spreading even faster along the hull. Inside the ship, the lights dimmed and alarms sounded throughout every compartment. "We've lost main power," Sam reported grimly. Switching to emergency systems, the Helios Dawn was now completely at the mercy of whatever force controlled the asteroid. Maya survived, but barely. The medical bay's emergency power kept her life support systems functioning while she lay unconscious. The ship's doctor, Ben Harris, worked tirelessly to stabilize her condition. "The energy surge caused neurological damage," he explained to the gathered crew. "She's stable, but I don't know when she'll wake up." 4 days had passed since they lost main power. The Helios Dawn drifted along with the asteroid, now completely under its control. Emergency systems provided minimal life support, but the temperature aboard the ship had dropped to uncomfortably cold levels. "We have 18 days of oxygen left if we maintain current usage rates," Eric reported during their daily briefing. The confident project manager was now haggard with exhaustion. After that, he didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone understood their dire situation. "We need to understand what we're dealing with," Allison said. "Jack, what have you learned from the crystal samples?" Jack brought up a display on his tablet, conserving the ship's remaining power. "They're unlike anything I've ever seen. The atomic structure resembles both organic and inorganic materials. They conduct energy and appear to store it. And they respond to us," Louis added. "Remember how they reacted when we tried to cut the connection?" Sam had been unusually quiet since they lost power. Now he spoke up. "I've been studying the interference patterns manually since our computers went down. There's definitely a pattern, but it's complex. It repeats, but with variations." "Like a language?" Allison asked. Sam nodded. "That's my guess." Laura Chen, the ship's biologist, had been working with Jack on the crystal analysis. "I found something interesting," she said. "The crystals respond to electrical signals similar to human neural patterns." The room went silent as the implications sank in. "Are you saying they respond to our thoughts?" Eric asked skeptically. "Not exactly," Laura clarified. "But they react to bioelectrical signals similar to what our bodies naturally produce. It's most noticeable when we're experiencing strong emotions." Jack's eyes widened. "That's why they responded so aggressively during the EVA. We were afraid, our adrenaline was pumping, and they perceived it as a threat." Allison finished. "This changes everything." Over the next 2 days, Laura and Jack conducted careful experiments with the crystal samples. They found that calm, focused mental states produced more favorable responses from the crystals. Meanwhile, Allison made another discovery while reviewing the ship's navigational data. "It's not random," she told the crew. "The asteroid is on a specific trajectory. It's heading somewhere precise." "Where?" Eric asked. "Based on my calculations, a point about 83 astronomical units from the Sun, beyond the orbit of Neptune." "There's nothing out there," Louis said. "Not now," Sam spoke up. "But what about thousands or even millions of years ago?" The idea slowly formed among them. They were trapped in an automated system created by an ancient, long-gone civilization. The asteroid wasn't just a rock. It was a vessel or tool, programmed to respond to certain stimuli and return to its point of origin. "It's a harvester," Jack said suddenly. "Think about it. It's designed to capture technology and bring it back to its creators, who are probably long extinct." Allison added, "This thing could have been drifting through space for thousands of years, running on automatic." "Great," Eric said bitterly. "So we're being kidnapped by an alien robot on a one-way trip to nowhere." Laura looked thoughtful. "Maybe not. If it's programmed, it can be reprogrammed." "How?" Louis asked. "We can barely understand what it is, let alone how to control it." Laura held up a small device she had been working on. "With this, I've been measuring our bioelectrical signals and how they affect the crystals. If we can create the right kind of interface, we might be able to communicate with it, Allison said, a small spark of hope in her voice for the first time in days. The crew looked at each other. The situation was still desperate, but now they had the beginning of a plan. If they could understand the intelligence behind the asteroid, they might find a way to survive. Let's get to work, Allison said. 1 week passed as the crew worked desperately to develop a way to communicate with the asteroid systems. Laura and Jack spent every waking hour studying the crystal samples, while Allison and Sam tried to create an interface that could translate human commands into signals the alien technology might understand. Oxygen levels at 42%, Eric announced during their morning meeting. We have 11 days left at current consumption rates. The news hung heavy in the air. They all knew their time was running out. We need a stronger connection to the main crystal network, Laura said. These small samples aren't enough. We need to access the core systems. You mean someone needs to go back outside, Lewis said. After what happened to Maya. Maya had regained consciousness but remained weak. She joined their meetings from her bed in the medical bay, connected through a tablet. The crystals responded negatively because we were trying to cut the connection, Jack explained. What if we approach them differently? Not as a threat, but as, well, a friendly signal. That's a big risk, Eric said. We're out of small risks to take, Allison replied. We either find a way to communicate with this thing, or we die when the oxygen runs out. After heated debate, they formed a plan. Jack would go outside with Laura's newly designed interface device. Instead of trying to sever the connection, he would attempt to establish a more controlled one. The device will amplify and focus your bioelectrical signals, Laura explained as she helped Jack suit up. Try to remain calm. Based on our tests, the crystals respond better to steady, peaceful patterns. Stay calm while facing an alien artifact that nearly killed Maya, Jack said with a nervous smile. Sure, no problem. Allison joined him for the EVA. As they made their way along the hull toward the crystal formations, she kept a safe distance, ready to pull Jack back if anything went wrong. The crystal growth had spread further across the ship's hull, creating a beautiful but terrifying landscape of blue-white structures. It's incredible, Jack whispered as they approached. In another situation, we would be celebrating this discovery. He carefully attached Laura's device to the largest crystal formation and activated it. The device hummed softly, transmitting Jack's bioelectrical patterns into the crystal network. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the crystals began to glow, pulsing with gentle blue light. It's working, Allison said. They're responding to you. Jack focused his thoughts, trying to project calm, curious intention. The crystals pulsed brighter, and he felt a strange tingling sensation running up his arm. I feel something, he said. It's trying to reach back to me. Suddenly, the crystal formation surged with energy. Before Allison could pull him away, a pulse shot through Jack's suit and into his body. He cried out and collapsed. Jack, Allison grabbed him, preparing to drag him back to the airlock. Wait, Jack gasped. I'm okay. It's not attacking me. It's connecting. His eyes were wide with wonder and fear. I can see images. Information. So much information. Inside the ship, Sam shouted through the comms. We're getting data. Massive amounts of data streaming into our systems. The crystal formations were now glowing steadily, and the power drain on the ship had stopped. It's communicating, Jack said, his voice filled with awe. I can see what it is, where it came from. When they brought Jack back inside, he was shaking with excitement despite his exhaustion. It's part of an automated harvester network, he explained to the gathered crew. Created by a civilization that died out millions of years ago. They sent these devices throughout the galaxy to collect resources and information. Can we control it? Eric asked. Jack nodded slowly. I think so. The connection is still there, In my mind, I can feel it. With Laura's device amplifying the signal, I might be able to redirect it. Redirect it where? Louis asked. Home. Allison said firmly. Back to Earth. Eric looked concerned. Is it safe? This connection to your mind? Jack touched his temple, where he could still feel the strange presence of the alien system. I don't know, but it's our only chance. The crew looked at each other, understanding the gravity of their situation. They had made contact with the alien technology, but the cost might be Jack's safety, or even his life. Let's do it, Jack said, making the decision for all of them. 3 days later, the crew gathered in the command center for their most daring attempt yet. Jack sat in a specially modified chair, surrounded by equipment. Laura had expanded her interface device, connecting it directly to both Jack and the ship's remaining functional systems. Are you sure about this? Allison asked him one final time. Jack nodded, though his face was pale. Every hour I'm connected to the crystal network, I understand more. If we don't try now, we'll never make it back. Their oxygen supplies were down to 8 days. Even if they succeeded, they would need help to reach Earth safely. We'll monitor your vital signs constantly, Ben said, attaching medical sensors to Jack's temples. If anything goes wrong, anything at all, we pull you out immediately. Ready when you are, Sam said from the communication station. He had rigged the ship's remaining power to boost any signal they might generate. Laura activated the interface. Jack closed his eyes, his body tensing as the connection with the crystal network strengthened. The lights in the command center dimmed as power flowed through the system. I can see it, Jack whispered. The whole network. It's beautiful. On the main screen, strange symbols appeared, flowing like water. Sam worked frantically to record everything. Heart rate elevated, Ben warned. Blood pressure rising. Jack's face contorted with effort. The harvester has a navigation system. I think I can redirect it. The ship shuddered suddenly. Outside, the crystal formations glowed brighter than ever before. He's doing it, Louis exclaimed, checking the navigational sensors. Our course is changing. Allison watched the trajectory plot with growing hope. The asteroid was indeed turning, slowly altering its path away from deep space. Earth is too far, Jack said, his voice strained. Can't make it directly. But Mars, I can aim for Mars orbit. That's good enough, Eric said. If we can get close enough to Mars, Earth can send a rescue mission. Jack's body suddenly arched in pain. Blood trickled from his nose. Pull him out, Ben shouted. No, Jack gasped. Almost done. The ship shook violently. Alarms blared throughout the command center. What's happening? Eric demanded. Energy surged throughout the crystal network, Sam reported. It's like the system is fighting back. Jack's eyes flew open, glowing with the same blue-white light as the crystals. Overriding primary directives, he said, his voice sounding strange, almost mechanical. New coordinates. Accepted. With a final violent shudder, the asteroid stabilized on its new course. Jack collapsed in the chair, unconscious but breathing. He did it, Laura said, checking the navigation data. We're headed for Mars orbit. While Ben and Louis took Jack to the medical bay, Sam made an astonishing discovery. The communications array is back online, he announced, and it's stronger than before. The crystal network is actually boosting our signal. Within hours, they established contact with Earth Command. Rescue plans were quickly formed. A ship would meet them near Mars in 34 days, cutting it close for their oxygen supplies, but possible if they carefully rationed what remained. 2 weeks later, Jack recovered enough to rejoin the crew. The connection to the crystal network remained, but more subdued. I can still feel it, he told Allison as they stood at the observation window, watching the stars. Not controlling me, just present. Do you regret it? She asked. Jack shook his head. How could I? We discovered an ancient alien technology. We communicated with it. We adapted it to our needs. He smiled. That's what humans do. We find a way. As they watched, the blue-white glow of the crystal formations pulsed gently across the asteroid's surface. What had once been their prison was now their salvation, carrying them home. In the medical bay, Maya was sitting up for the first time since her injury. "So we're going to be famous," she said weakly as Eric filled her in on their rescue plan. "More than famous," Eric replied. "This technology, once we understand it better, it could change everything. Energy production, space travel, maybe even medicine." The Helios Dawn continued its journey toward Mars, the once threatening asteroid now tamed by human ingenuity and courage. They had come to mine a rock and instead discovered something far more valuable, a new chapter in human history. And somewhere deep in the crystal network, a final directive from a long-dead civilization was rewritten, not to harvest, but to help.